Bryant, man. You're aware. Now, I admit, man, your investment in Kobe Bryant is similar to my investment in one Jerry Rice. I grew up, man, you couldn't tell me anything about Jerry Rice, man. I love Jerry Rice, but it's proven Jerry Rice is the best wide receiver of all time. Kobe can never be the best player of all time. That's Michael Jeffrey Jordan. But I digress. Let's get into our Omens segment. Kobe, we love you, Kobe.
All right, Daimeon, this week, of course, we're going to go into the NFL divisional playoff round. A lot of good matchups going on this weekend, man. On the NFC side, you've got the Seattle Seahawks going into Charlotte, North Carolina to take on the Carolina Panthers. Strength on strength right there. A rematch of a game previously played this season where the Carolina Panthers went into Seattle and pulled out a win there in the fourth quarter. Also in the toaster, you've got another rematch. This time it was a blowout. It was Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers going into Arizona and just getting throttled by Carson Palmer and the Arizona Cardinals a few weeks ago. And then on the AFC side of things, you got the Pittsburgh Steelers going into familiar territory, going into the place where they made Tim Tebow look like John Elway in Denver to face the Broncos. And then you got in Foxborough, Tom Terrific welcoming in the Kansas City Chiefs, who are on a tear right now. 11 games in a row they've won. So a lot going on, a lot of good games, a lot of what I feel are going to be very hotly contested games. Daimeon, who you got?
Let me begin with that enticing matchup. Now, we are located in the Carolinas, you in South Carolina, myself in North Carolina, but we are North Carolina natives. I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, and neither are you. I rep the 49er gang, of course, because I love Jerry Rice. I love Joe Montana, but I digress. Seattle at Carolina, man. Carolina won the previous matchup 27-23, as you said before. Now, that was an interesting matchup because going into that game, the National Football League didn't believe in Carolina. Carolina was undefeated, but they hadn't really played anybody good. So they went to Seattle, and Seattle punched them in the mouth. Seattle had a lead in the fourth quarter. Cam Newton really began his march to MVP status in that game. Greg Olsen had a monster game, and ultimately Carolina came back to win that game 27-23. Fast forward to this divisional round matchup where the Panthers are coming off a bye, so they're able to get healthy. You're going to get Jonathan Stewart back. Maybe get Ted Ginn back, at the wide receiver position. Greg Olsen is going to pose problems again for that secondary in Seattle. Cam Chancellor, he's not a good, cover guy at the safety position.
I mean, how did they leave Greg Olsen that wide open in the fourth quarter, man?
How does O.J. Mayo repeatedly get open in the national championship game for Alabama? I mean, if I knew the questions to that answer, I would, play the Powerball, tonight and quite possibly get that 1.5 billy, but I digress. Now, I think that Carolina's going to come out on top of this game again, similar fashion. I'm going to go with Carolina 24, Seattle 20. I love Russell Wilson, maybe as much as Seattle loves and Sierra loves Russell Wilson, but Cam Newton is on a mission, man. He's been dabbing on them all season, and Cam is going to play outstanding. They're well rested. They're going to be ready to play. They're motivated to play. Panthers 24, Seahawks 20. Now, in that second NFC game, Green Bay at Arizona beat the brakes off Green Bay 38-8 back on December the 27th. Carson Palmer is going to exploit that weak Green Bay secondary again. And on that other side, discount double check himself, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. He's not going to be able to throw on Rogers Cromartie and Patrick Peterson like he was able to throw on the Redskins defense. So I have, that Arizona defense pretty much holding Green Bay in check. And I have Arizona winning that game 30-20.
And Daimeon, I spoke with personnel in the San Francisco 49ers offense this week, and he told me what makes the Arizona Cardinals defense so special is not the athletes that supply that defense because they have athletes in an abundance. But he said what makes it so difficult to play against is the complexity of their defense. He said it's so hard to figure out what it is they're doing and the checks they make and who needs to go where and who to pick up and blitz schemes and things like that it just makes it tough. That complexity just takes them to a whole nother level.
The Cardinals, excellent on defense. They will miss Honey Badger somewhat. That guy made big plays, man. He, unfortunately, knee injury, out for the entire playoffs. You also have, injuries on the offensive side of the ball for the Cardinals with Chris Johnson being out for a couple weeks now. He's out, possibly he maybe can come back later in the playoffs. But Arizona has so much firepower on the offensive side of the ball. You got Floyd, heavens, man. You have Fitzgerald playing out of the slot. You can't stop John Brown. I mean, why can't anybody stop that guy? I have Arizona winning that game 30-20. And in the other matchup with the Panthers and the Seahawks, I have the Panthers 24, Seahawks 20. Moving on, Pierre, to the AFC side of things. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Denver Broncos. Now, Pittsburgh is banged up as well. Vontaze Burfict laid out Antonio Brown like a first grader, or let's say a fourth grader would lay out his first outfit before the first day of school. So you don't know if Antonio. I mean, Antonio Brown was asleep. I mean, he was like a freshly ironed pair of pants on the field. I mean, he was stiff as a board. We know that D'Angelo Williams, if he does play, he's going to be limited with that ankle sprain. Enter the Denver Broncos. They're playing at home. Von Miller and company on the defensive side of the ball. They got two elite cornerbacks in Akeem Talib and Harris Jr. Outstanding pass rush in Denver. Peyton is back. No more Brock Osweiler unless Peyton gets hurt or Peyton plays horribly. I got Denver winning this game 28-13 over the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And we spoke earlier that high-powered Steelers offense is going to be handicapped without one of the best quarterbacks in the league and the best wide receiver in the league. I'm sorry. And Pittsburgh Steelers fans, I hate to say this, but you may have won the battle against Vontaze Burfict, but he won the war. He's effectively ended your season.
I mean, they do. That's why they play the games. There is a chance that Pittsburgh can go to Denver and win that game. But if Roethlisberger is limited by that shoulder injury or he doesn't play, and we all know Antonio Brown, if he does play, he's not going to be 100%. I don't see them beating Denver. Denver's defense is just simply too good, and they're going to be able to score enough points to beat Pittsburgh. So I'm going Denver 28, Pittsburgh 13. Moving on to Kansas City at New England. Tom Terrific, they've been quiet. You've recently in the recent years in the playoffs, you've heard a lot of noise from New England being picked to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl, but they've been kind of on a little slide late in the season, Pierre. Now, Kansas City is red hot. Alex Smith is an adequate quarterback. He's not great, but they haven't tasted defeat, in almost 2 months. So Kansas City is playing really good right now. They have a great defense, two elite pass rushers, Tamba Ali, Justin Houston. They're going to get after that depleted offensive line for the Patriots, Pierre. And we don't know the health status of Gronk. He's very, very injury prone. We don't know if Edelman is going to be. He's not going to be 100%. His timing is going to be off. He hasn't played in several weeks. I'm going with a major upset here. I'm throwing a monkey wrench in the game. I'm throwing a glitch in the matrix. Kansas City 23, New England 17. How do you love that, America?
And see, now you sound like me because I went the same way last week. If you remember, this is very similar to the Green Bay Packers versus the Washington Redskins. One team who started out hot and now is going on a downward spiral, and another team who started out not so hot and now they're playing very, very well. And I think you forgetting the same way I forgot about the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. You're forgetting about the greatest quarterback to ever do it, Tom Terrific.
Besides Joe Montana.
And you're forgetting about the greatest quarterback to ever do it, I repeat.
Besides Joe Montana, and I repeat.
Joe Montana was great. He's no Tom Brady.
Wow. That is another show as well.
Joe Montana had one of the best running backs to ever play. He had the best wide receiver to ever play. He had Dwight Clark. He had Taylor with him. he had some horses around him. Tom Brady has done it with Julian Edelman, Danny Woodhead, Wes Welker, guys who go other places and don't do a doggone thing.
Understandable. But Nick Saban has had top recruiting class after top recruiting class. You still have to go out there and win the game and win championships.
That's part of being a coach, though. Recruiting is part of being a coach.
And I understand that. So like,
credit
talent,
for that too.
I mean, you still have to win the game. I do say that Tom Brady is one of the top quarterbacks who ever played the game, but Joe Montana is my guy. But I digress. I understand what you're saying, man. I just think that offensive line is gonna have issues, man, with that pass rush in Kansas City. You know, I love Tom Brady.
Am I humble? You know, and I hate cutting you off, but that's the next Am I Humble. You guys tune in to the Am I Humble channel. The next Am I Humble with Daimeon Banks and Pierre Banks will be who is the better quarterback, Joe Montana or Tom Terrific. You heard it here first on the All Things Sport podcast. Here at Banks Boy Productions, we're all about giving you what you want. And so, I mean, the next Am I Humble will be Tom Terrific versus Joe Montana.
I mean, you can't go by we'll get into that later. I'm going now back to what we were talking about with the matchup between the Chiefs and the Patriots. I'm going to go with the upset here, man. I'm going to shock the world. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if Kansas City got blew out. But I just got a feeling that they're going to surprise some people, man. And New England is going to graciously bow out in this, in their opening game of the playoffs. I'm going Kansas City 23. And New England 17.
And Daimeon, as always, man, it's been a lot of fun. Want to remind everybody out there to go visit the Banks Boy Productions website, banksboy.com, where you can get everything you need to supply your habit of all things sport, man. We got the YouTube channel on there. Of course, we got the podcast, the All Things Sport podcast on there. We got my blog, we got Daimeon's blog. So please visit banksboy.com at your earliest convenience and continue to support the movement, man. We love you all out there.
Pierre, we hit them hard this week, man. We gave them the college football national championships. We gave them the division, the wild card weekend recap. We hit them with the crazy bruh for real, and we had to give them the omen. But now it's time to say goodbye to all my podcasting friends. We out of here, man. This has been another fantastic episode of the All Things Sport podcast. Until next time on Spreaker Radio, we go!
The All Things Sport Podcast with Daimeon Banks and Pierre Banks on Spreaker Radio.